Welcome back to GLC Math. Let's have a look at the next question I call skill number 1209. And this question is to do with sine and cos, but I'm going to be using a sine example. Let's hit with our color. So we're going to solve this equation, and we want x is anything between 2 pi and 4 pi, so be careful with that. First of all, let's have a look at this value here. Whatever that is, sine of that, whatever that is equal to -1/2. This is the first thing we look at. We ignore this bit in here and just have a look at this -1/2. Sine of what angle equals -1/2? Now, traditionally, we know that it's a negative in there's all the positive, only sine is positive, tan is positive in the third quadrant, cos is positive in the fourth quadrant. Therefore, this angle here has to belong to a fourth quadrant where cos is positive and a third quadrant where only tan is positive. So sine was negative in the third and fourth quadrant. Now let's have a look at what angles x over 2. Now x is anywhere between 2 pi and 4 pi. But we don't want x, we want x over 2. So let's adjust our domain to suit x over 2. If I divide that by 2, I must divide that by 2, and I must divide that by 2. Therefore, we're dealing with x over 2 in that bracket can be anything between 2 pi and pi. Now, pi and 2 pi is pretty much quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Now, we know that sine of pi over 6 equals 1/2. You should know that. You should know sine, cos, and tan. And we use what a 30-60, which is half an equilateral triangle. If it was a 2 by 2 by 2, that side would be 2, that invisible side would be 2, this side would be 1, and using Pythagoras' theorem, this side is √3. This is the big angle, 60 degrees, or pi over 3. This is the 30 degrees, or pi over 6. So there's pi over 6. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of pi over 6 is 1 over 2. Therefore, the third quadrant angle, once we know if this angle is pi over 6 in the first quadrant, the second quadrant is pi minus pi over 6, which is 5 pi over 6. The third quadrant is pi plus pi over 6, which is 6 pi over 6 plus pi over 6, which is 7 pi over 6. And the fourth quadrant is 2 pi minus that acute angle, which is 12 pi over 6 minus 1 pi over 6 equals 11 pi over 6. Our two angles we're dealing with to equal a -1/2 is 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Therefore, our x over 2 angle, our x over 2 is going to equal 7 pi over 6, or our x over 2 is going to equal 11 pi over 6. Now to finish, we just take this divide 2 and double it. Therefore, x will be 7 pi over 6 times 2, so 7 pi over 3. We double that. Therefore, x will equal 11 pi over 6 times 2, which is 11 pi over 3. So can I just reiterate the steps that I did? First of all, I looked at the fact that we wanted an angle that gives us -1/2. And we found out that the angle we're looking for, x over 2, lies between pi and 2 pi. And in those quadrants, both quadrants, the third and fourth quadrant, will give us a negative sign value. So we have to deal with both of those quadrants. And using the fact that the third quadrant angle is pi plus pi over 6, the fourth quadrant is 2 pi minus pi over 6. And that gives us our two angles for x over 2. Finally, we want our x value, and our x values are 7 pi over 3, 11 pi over 3. When you check that, you will see that they are both between 2 pi and 4 pi as our original condition. So I hope that's helped. Until we talk again, stay happy. Cheers.